Okay, this is an incredibly cool problem. Some of you might find it a little bit challenging, but hopefully you all can see how interesting it is when we set it up and solve it. Okay, so it says a student scored 83 and 91 on her first two quizzes. Um, Write and solve a compound inequality to find the possible values for a third quiz that would give her an average of 85 to 90 inclusive meaning we it could be equal to these numbers as well as somewhere in between. So watch. We're going to say, how would you find the average of three quizzes? If one was 83, you say 83, plus the other one, a second one was 91, okay? Plus, there's another one that we don't know yet, and we call it X, okay? Now, we add those three scores together. How do you do an average of something? Well, you add numbers together and you divide by how many numbers you added. How many numbers are we adding? We're adding one, two, three scores, right? Three quiz scores total. So if we want to find the average of those three quiz scores, we add them together and we say, now we're going to divide by three. This right here is going to be the average of her three scores. The first score of 83, the second score of 91, and the third score, we don't know what it is yet, okay? But we do know that it's this. That number is going to be greater than 85 or could be equal to, right? So it's going to be 85 or greater because it's telling us right here it's going to be between 85 and 90, and it could include 85 as a score. So here we say the average, the average is going to be greater than or equal to 85, and of course it's going to be less than or equal to 90. Okay, so looking at it one more time before we solve it, just to make sure that we understand that it's set up right, we have an average for her three quiz scores. We've got the first quiz score, the second quiz score, and the third that we don't know. And when we add them together and divide by three, that's the average. So we want this average to be greater than or equal to 85, less than or equal to 90, between 85 and 90. And it says inclusive. It's allowed to include those numbers as scores. So we say or equals. Okay? Well, now what do we have to do? Well, we need to undo what's happening to the variable right now. And the very first thing we have to undo is this divided by 3. Because remember, there's invisible parentheses around the top and bottom of any kind of fraction bar like this with an expression in it. Okay, there's parentheses around it, and those happen first, and then the division happens last. So that's the first thing we have to undo. So we're going to multiply both sides by 3, all parts by 3. Sorry. So we say 3 parentheses, everything that's there, is less than or equal to 3 parentheses, everything that's there, which is less than or equal to 3 parentheses, everything that's there, 90. Okay? Now, this divided by 3 and this times 3 will cancel out. Okay? So, and that's kind of the point of this, is to undo that. So we say 3 times 85 is 255. It's less than or equal to 83 plus 91 plus x, which is less than or equal to 270. Okay. Right now I'm going to add these two values together right here. When I add them together, then that makes it easier to subtract them. So I'm going to say that's the same as 255 is less than or equal to 174 plus x, which is less than or equal to 270. And now we're going to subtract 174 from all parts. Okay. And when we do that here, we've got, that's a 1, 25 minus 17. I can cancel if that's a 1, that's a 15. 15 minus 7 is 8. Less than or equal to x, which is less than or equal to, let's do it. Bar from this is a 6, that's a 10. 10 minus 4 is 6. Now we can't do 6 minus 7, so we borrow from this. This becomes a 1, that becomes a 16. 16 minus 7 is 9. And there you go. So I'm going to write it over here a little bit closer. And what do we get as an answer? What we get as an answer is that if this girl scores, just write it again down here to be clearer. If this girl scores any score from 81 to 96, she will have an average of from 85 to 90. Okay, so that's the answer.